we talked about this before, and she's like, Kody's not going to care and he's going to be good with it and stuff. And I'm like, please say the right thing.
Where is the Brown clan going? And is Kody Brown finally seeing the price of each decision he has made with Robyn by his side? From explosive court documents to rumors of bankruptcy to the emotional breakdown of relationships long thought indestructible, the narrative of sister wives has never been hotter. And now, as more information spills out behind the scenes, one reality can no longer be denied. Kody and Robyn's actions haven't simply changed the family's history. They might have already ended their future. But what if I told you that Robyn's insidiously orchestrated persona, the good wife, the guardian of the family dream, is quietly dismantled by pieces of paper that fewer than 50 people have ever laid eyes on? What if I were to tell you that Kody's demands for loyalty, no matter what, weren't so much about family harmony, but control over money, assets, and reputation? And what if I were to tell you that this soap opera is far from finished because the future of Sister Wives itself may be riding on what is to come in courtrooms, in agreements, and in backroom discussions that were never intended to be disclosed? According to exclusive insider accounts, the Brown family's unraveling didn't begin with Christine leaving or even with Janelle standing her ground. It began the moment Robyn entered the picture, changing the financial balance, the emotional center, and the narrative that TLC sold to millions of viewers. What appeared to be a tale of resilience, family, and faith at first gradually built into a cycle of secrecy, favoritism, and eventually disintegration. And fans don't forget. They don't forget the tearful admission by Meri that she felt left behind. They don't forget the countless pleas by Christine for equal treatment, which were repeatedly disregarded. They don't forget Janelle's fortitude, gradually eroded as her money vanished into projects to which she didn't agree. Meanwhile, all this was going on. Robyn entered the limelight, staying in mansions, throwing money around, and living what many have referred to as special treatment. Now the cracks are no longer merely emotional. Now they're legal, financial, and permanent. Before we dive further into what new documents show and why the future of the family might be teetering on the brink, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. This saga is not yet over, and what is being revealed next will make you look at every episode of Sister Wives differently. Because according to the law, according to sources inside the family, and according to the recollections of the wives who left, Kody and Robyn's actions are not only questionable, potentially disastrous. From the outside, Robyn was the breath of fresh air. She was younger, optimistic, and vowed to merge her life with the already complex dynamics of Kody's plural household. It was marketed as a romance, the missing piece, which would cement the family's unity. But behind closed doors, insiders claim Robyn's arrival was the start of a change that made the other wives feel invisible. Christine has publicly stated she felt like an afterthought, speaking of years of being left in the shadows, while Robyn and Kody created a life that seemed more of a traditional marriage than a plural one. Janelle, who is more reserved in her strength, spoke of frustrations regarding monetary compromises. Money she made went into projects that benefited Robyn's family repeatedly. And Meri, already at odds with loneliness, was on the outside of Kody's love altogether. But what few fans understood was just how much. Robyn's presence changed the entire financial dynamic based on records and testimony that come out very infrequently. Titles to property, business revenues, and shared profits changed in a manner that placed Robyn and her kids much better off than the rest of their kin. It wasn't love anymore. It was control. Sources near the Browns maintain that Kody urged the other wives to invest in the family pot. But most of the expenditures went to support Robyn's needs and Robyn's house. And when the other wives began questioning things, they were not given answers. They were given the silent treatment, or worse, hostility. This isn't a tale of favoritism alone. It is about the emotional cost of being relegated to the sidelines in your own marriage. Picture spending decades of your life raising kids, building homes, and then sitting by and watching as another woman moves in and becomes the center of attention. The financial focus and the sole voice Kody seemed to actually hear. Fans picked up on it as well. Each season, increasingly more and more viewers were wondering, why is Kody always with Robyn? Why does Robyn's house cost so much more than the others? Why are Christine, Janelle, and Meri always expected to sacrifice while Robyn thrives? And that's where the cracks in the foundation began to show. Because favoritism isn't just unfair, it leaves scars. Scars that, as we'll see, didn't just destroy marriages. They also set the stage for court wars, money fights, and the very public failure of the Brown family fantasy. But here is the surprising twist. Insiders say Kody knew what he was getting himself into, and they claim it wasn't about love. It was about constructing a financial stronghold around Robyn, however expensive it would be for the others. To present himself as the man holding everything together, a father of many. A husband juggling the requirements of multiple wives and a breadwinner. Kody went on for years. But if you remove the tightly choreographed TLC footage, what is left is a paper trail that paints a very different picture. Property records in both Las Vegas and Flagstaff indicate a pattern. When it was time to purchase or acquire houses, Robyn's name was always kept secret. Her properties were invested in such a manner that she had more stability. Whereas Christine and Janelle usually bore the financial burden of family projects that did not personally profit them. Example, Coyote Pass. Kody claimed it was the Browns' future. It's a sign of togetherness, where every wife would one day have a house. But when Christine departed, the painful reality was exposed. Her investments into the property were not secure. While she invested money in the dream, she left with nothing in her name. Compare that to Robyn, whose home valued at nearly $900,000 was never truly at risk. Court filings tied to family disputes confirm what fans long suspected. Kody and Robyn were safeguarding themselves first, while the other wives were expected to sacrifice for the greater good. Legal experts who've looked at these cases note that this isn't just favoritism. It's financial strategy, and it was a plan that made Christine and Janelle especially vulnerable. What is more, insider reports indicate that money from TLC, which was intended to be divided, routinely went into ventures that immediately benefited Robyn's household, from expensive mortgage payments to extravagant spending habits. The family pot resembled less of a shared resource and more of a lifeline for Kody and Robyn's lifestyle choice. This imbalance has been characterized by some as nothing short of financial betrayal. Christine has stated in interviews that she felt she was last in all ways, not only emotionally, but also financially. And Janelle's constant reminders that their financial stability was precarious were habitually dismissed, particularly when they conflicted with Kody's vision for Robyn. The numbers don't lie. The paperwork doesn't lie. And the fans can now see what was in plain view all along, that Kody's so-called family vision was never about equity. It was about creating a financial safety net for Robyn and her kids, even while the other wives took on risk and debt. And this is where it gets ugly, because once these financial facts no longer could be denied, the emotional disintegration of the family accelerated, and that is when the exodus started. For years, Christine smiled through the hurt. She acted the part of the facilitator wife, the mother of many children, and the believer in Kody's vision of oneness. But behind her own closed doors, she was observing a reality that she could no longer overlook. Her marriage wasn't only failing, it was disintegrating from favoritism and financial deceit. The final straw occurred when Christine understood that all of her sacrifices had gained her nothing. Although she worked on the Coyote Pass property, invested all her energy into having children, and stood by Kody's leadership, she found she had no security, no partnership, and no respect. Kody's emotional lack was evident, but what hurt even more was his financial abandonment. Each time Christine demanded equity, the responses looped back to the same theme. Robyn was first. There was one moment, however, that was notable in fans' eyes as a public glimpse of this private collapse. On television, Christine broke into tears, acknowledging she couldn't continue a marriage where she didn't feel valued. Her voice trembled. Her hurt was obvious, but her resolve was not. It wasn't about leaving Kody, it was about reasserting her dignity after all those years of invisibility. And this is the part that shocked so many people. Christine also said she never really had a voice in the major decisions. The house buys the allocation of family funds, even the way Kody split his time. These were always leaning in Robyn's direction. For Christine, this wasn't just about favoritism anymore. It was a betrayal of all plural marriage was meant to represent. When Christine eventually packed up and left, it wasn't just a personal choice. It was the smoking gun. Her exit proved what viewers had long suspected, that the family was not equal. Kody wasn't impartial, and Robyn wasn't merely another wife. She was the priority, and the rest were left to clean up the mess. Christine's departure shocked the family. It was the day that the cracks in the foundation could no longer be ignored. Janelle started speaking her mind more freely. Meri descended into isolation, and Kody, he doubled down, holding on even tighter to Robyn, as if establishing that favoritism was something he would never retract. For fans, Christine's stance was inspiring, but for the Brown family, it was tragic, because once one wife was brave enough to walk away, it compelled all the others to face the reality they had been denying. Perhaps the dream had already died. And if Christine's departure was the smoking gun, the events that followed showed that the consequences would extend far past one marriage. Christine's exit was not simply one wife walking out. It was a domino that fell, a reminder to the rest of the family that they weren't stuck, that they could leave Kody. And for Janelle and Meri, it was a harsh reality check. Janelle was the practical wife, the one who had bought into teamwork and working toward the future through sacrifice. She had put time, money, and effort into ventures like Coyote Pass, expecting Kody's promises of someday that it would all be worth it. But Christine's departure pushed Janelle to ask a difficult question. What was she exactly giving up for? Her answer became more defined by the day. Kody's attention wasn't on her, her children, or her financial woes. His allegiance was dedicated to Robyn. And when Janelle finally started to push back, refusing to passively stand behind Kody's vision, their confrontations turned explosive. One fight in particular made headlines. Janelle standing her ground, telling Kody that she wouldn't give up her independence just to fit into his version of family unity. For fans, it was a turning point. For Kody, it was another sign that his authority was slipping. Then there was Meri. For years, she endured a cold, loveless relationship with Kody. The emotional separation was so total that once, Kody confessed that he did not desire to be intimate with her. Nevertheless, Meri remained, trusting that loyalty and patience would someday win his heart back. When Christine finally walked away, Meri could no longer deny the brutal truth staring her in the face. Kody didn't want her back. His eyes, his loyalty, his very future were tied to Robyn. And any possibility of rekindling their broken bond was lost forever. In interviews, Meri confessed that she often felt like a ghost in her own marriage, present in name but invisible in Kody's world. Christine's departure, though heartbreaking, lit a spark inside Meri for the first time. She began questioning her own place in the family, realizing that staying might cost her not just her dignity, but her very identity. This was the aftershock of Christine's brave decision, a tidal wave of truth that forced both Janelle and Meri to confront the years of neglect and sacrifice they had endured. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn stood more isolated than ever. The sprawling plural family that had once been TLC's crown jewel was shrinking before the eyes of millions. And here lay the cruel irony. Rather than attempting to rebuild bridges or fight for his other wives, Kody doubled down, clinging even tighter to Robyn. It was a choice that pushed Janelle and Meri further away, confirming Christine's claim all along that Kody's top priority was never balance. It was always Robyn. The backlash was swift, emotional, financial, and deeply public. When Sister Wives first aired, viewers were captivated. A modern plural family, showcasing their struggles and triumphs, preaching love, faith, and sacrifice. But as the years dragged on, that glossy image began to crack. By the time Christine left, the breakdown was unfolding live, in real time, with millions watching. Social media erupted. Hashtags trended, mocking Kody's blatant favoritism and labeling Robyn the fourth wife who became the only wife. Clips of Kody dismissing Christine's pain or brushing off Janelle's concerns went viral. Audiences who once tuned in with fascination now seethed with outrage. Even the media turned on them. Where once magazines had praised the Browns as a beacon of unconventional love, headlines now screamed of collapse, betrayal, and scandal. Robyn's lavish lifestyle was contrasted against the sacrifices of the other wives. And viewers who had once defended the Browns began accusing TLC of covering up chaos. For them, the suspicion of favoritism was no longer suspicion. It was fact. The network pivoted. TLC realized viewers were no longer interested in a story of harmony. They were drawn to the drama, the disintegration. Previews grew darker, episodes were pared down to conflicts and tears, and the wholesome marketing of sister wives vanished. The Browns were no longer pioneers of family perseverance. They were villains in their own narrative. Viewers booed them online. Former supporters labeled Kody and Robyn narcissistic. Even their own children began sharing accounts that ripped holes in the carefully constructed TLC storyline. This wasn't just bad press. It was expensive. TLC ratings now relied on chaos. Every breakdown, every argument, every raw wound had to be displayed for the cameras. And while Christine, Janelle, and even Meri gained sympathy from fans, Kody and Robyn became the targets of ridicule and fury. Audiences demanded answers. How much of the Browns' money, fame, and security had been built at the expense of the other wives? That question opened doors that Kody and Robyn never wanted unlocked. Investigations into their finances gained momentum. Insiders revealed details long whispered about how the family pot was filled by TLC salaries and shared income, but spent disproportionately on Robyn's lifestyle. While Christine and Janelle contributed faithfully to mortgages, utilities, and childcare, Robyn's spending soared, her $900,000 house, her lifestyle upgrades, her stability shielded from risk. Leaked documents suggested something more damning. Kody used portions of the TLC earnings to pay off Robyn's old debts, ensuring she entered the marriage financially secure. Meanwhile, Meri struggled to keep her bed and breakfast afloat without meaningful support. Janelle scraped to build a future for herself and her children, often in vain. Christine openly admitted she never knew where much of her money went. The contrast was undeniable. Robyn ascended while the others shouldered the load. To fans, it wasn't surprising. It was confirmation. The Browns were less a united family of faith and more a financial system built to protect. Kody and Robyn, Christine's years of feeling invisible made sense. Janelle's suspicions of wasted sacrifice were validated. Meri's loneliness was reframed as systemic exclusion. But money leaves a trail, and that trail led straight to the future of the Browns. Their children, now older, began speaking out. Garrison and Gabriel, Janelle's sons, revealed the fractured relationship they had with their father. They described abandonment, resentment, and pain, particularly during the pandemic when Kody's rigid rules fractured their household. Christine's children echoed the same heartbreak, saying their mother had endured years of cruelty and neglect. Even Leon, Meri's only child, spoke of long-standing tension and a lack of support. In contrast, Robyn's children painted a very different picture, one of a present, loving, attentive father. To outsiders, the divide was glaring. Some children were chosen, while others were left behind. It was no longer just the wives speaking. It was the next generation confirming the truth. For fans, this was the final blow. The dream wasn't just dead, it was toxic. And as the children's testimonies piled up, the public's sympathy swung firmly away from Kody and Robyn. Their story was no longer one of faith, unity, or even family. It was a cautionary tale of manipulation, favoritism, and financial betrayal. The legacy the Browns once hoped to leave behind lies in ruins. Christine is thriving, free at last, living with joy and self-respect. Janelle has carved her own path, independent and outspoken. Meri, though scarred, is beginning anew. But Kody and Robyn are left standing in the wreckage, surrounded by fractured relationships, legal disputes, and a reputation so damaged it may never recover. The land at Coyote Pass, once promised as a beacon of family togetherness, remains barren, a symbol of broken promises and wasted resources. TLC still films, but the show now thrives on collapse rather than unity. And the biggest question hangs heavy in the air. How much longer before this story, like the family itself, finally crumbles for good? Janelle, though still untangling the knots of her financial life, has earned the admiration of fans for her honesty, resilience, and sheer determination to survive. Unlike Kody, who often appeared to dodge responsibility when things became inconvenient, Janelle shouldered her share of the chaos without flinching. Viewers respected her calm practicality, her ability to balance family drama with financial reality, and her refusal to crumble under the weight of betrayal. To this day, her story resonates because she represents the countless women who, after years of sacrifice, dare to stand up and reclaim their independence. Meri, long trapped in the sorrow of rejection, is finally learning to live on her own terms. Her journey has been painfully public. The catfishing scandal, Kody's cold dismissal of their marriage, and her long years of being treated like an outsider in her own family. Yet, instead of retreating in bitterness, Meri is proving she can redefine herself without the man who once humiliated her on national television. Her decision to step forward, rebuild her businesses, and live unapologetically is more than survival. It is a story of redemption. And here lies the most extraordinary truth. The Brown family's future is no longer dictated by Kody Brown. For years, he styled himself as the head, the visionary, the man whose choices shaped everything. But that illusion has crumbled. The future is being rewritten, not by him, but by the women who walked away. This transition from obedience to freedom may well be the Browns' most enduring legacy. It is not a tale of a man who ruled over wives, but of women who refused to sacrifice themselves any longer. The empire Kody once controlled now teeters on the edge. Will TLC continue to profit from chaos, heartbreak, and broken promises? Or will the final act of this saga be silence? A quiet disintegration, with Kody and Robyn left to face their isolation alone. Their grand house, once a symbol of security, now feels like a fortress of loneliness. Their future no longer looks like a family empire, but more like a crumbling monument to pride and poor choices. The financial burdens, the headlines, the property battles, these are easy enough to tally. Bank records, court filings, and mortgage documents spell out the practical damage. But what cannot be so easily measured is the emotional wreckage left behind. For Christine, the deepest wound was never being truly seen or valued. She gave her heart, her youth, her energy, and her loyalty to a man who placed her last again and again. Her decision to walk away was not just an act of survival. It was a declaration that she deserved better. And in saying those words, Christine spoke for countless women who had ever felt invisible, belittled, or silenced in a relationship. She set herself free, and in doing so, she freed others too. Janelle's cost was of a different kind. The pragmatist, the planner, the steady hand Janelle poured years into making the family vision work. She budgeted, she sacrificed, she bent her dreams around Kody's grand schemes, trusting that her loyalty would one day bring stability. But instead, she was left with empty promises and mounting debts. Her loyalty became her vulnerability. Her trust turned into regret. And yet, to watch her now choosing independence over blind faith, standing firm against Kody's manipulation, is to witness the kind of strength that only comes from years of endurance. Her freedom is not loud or flashy, but it is powerful. Meri's pain, quieter but no less devastating, cut even deeper. For decades, she endured rejection in a marriage where intimacy had long since died. Forced to listen as her husband publicly declared he no longer loved her. Those words carved invisible wounds, but wounds nonetheless. And yet Meri's decision to finally step out of the shadows was not merely about survival. It was about healing. After years of being ghosted by the man she trusted most, she has begun to reclaim her dignity. Her courage is not in fiery speeches, but in decisive steps forward, steps that may lead her to a life where she is finally enough. And what of the children? Their scars may prove the longest lasting. Some have spoken openly, revealing how their father's blatant favoritism fractured bonds that should have been unshakable. Others have chosen silence, retreating from the glare of cameras to nurse their wounds privately. A child who grows up feeling unloved or unequal does not easily forget it. Those scars linger long after the cameras stop rolling, shaping the way they see relationships and family forever. Already, many of the older children have rejected polygamy outright, declaring that they will not repeat the mistakes they saw their parents make. Robyn, of course, has her own script. She paints herself as misunderstood, unfairly cast as the villain, insisting she only ever wanted the family to thrive. Yet, to the other wives and too many viewers, her tears ring hollow. For while Christine, Janelle, and Meri endured rejection and struggle, Robyn lived in protection, safety, and entitlement, the very things denied to the rest. That imbalance, that sense of favoritism, is the true cost of Kody's choices. This story was never just about who lived in the largest home or who paid the highest mortgage. It was about who mattered and who did not. It was about years of invisibility, of loneliness, of being dismissed. TLC's cameras could edit scenes, splice together narratives, and soften harsh edges, but they could never erase the heartbreak etched into every wife's story. And yet, what followed the collapse of the family surprised even the most loyal fans. Christine, Janelle, and Meri did not simply fade into silence. They began to rebuild, and their transformations were astonishing. Christine's exit was bold, unapologetic. She moved into her own home, reconnected with her children, rediscovered love. But more than romance, her transformation was about self-worth. She showed her children and the world that happiness is worth fighting for, even if it means tearing down what once felt unchangeable. Janelle's transformation was quieter, but deeply inspiring. She began making decisions for herself, not for a marriage that no longer existed. Her sovereignty was a revelation. Fans saw in her the strength of patience, of resilience, of finally claiming her worth. And Meri, long the silent shadow, found her courage too. She set boundaries, severed emotional ties with Kody, and poured herself into business and personal growth. Her dignity, long stripped away, is being rebuilt step by step. Her victory is not flashy, but it is profound. Together, these three women have rewritten the narrative. Once silenced, they are now the voices driving the Sister Wives saga forward. Christine, Janelle, and Meri proved that the system Kody clung to no longer holds power. They redefine family not through obedience to a patriarch, but through autonomy, dignity, and resilience. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn remain frozen. Rather than grow, they doubled down, isolated in their expensive home, insisting that they alone understood the family's vision. But the more they justified, the more it became clear. While the wives were changing, Kody and Robyn were standing still. Their story is no longer one of leadership, but of decline. The children, too, are reshaping the Browns' legacy. Many have already rejected polygamy, pointing to the dysfunction they lived through. Christine's children, in particular, have voiced their desire for healthier models of love. Their choices signify not only the end of Kody's dream now, but its end for generations to come. The future, then, no longer belongs to Kody and Robyn. It belongs to the women and the children who found strength in leaving. Christine embodies hope, Janelle resilience, Meri dignity. Together, they represent a new vision, one in which love is not conditional. Loyalty is not blind, and family is not defined by a man's control. As the cameras continue to roll, fans no longer watch in the hope of seeing Kody triumph. They watch because they believe in the women who escaped his shadow. The Browns' future may no longer be united, but it is real, raw, and profoundly human. And perhaps that is the most powerful story of all. Sometimes the strongest ending is not clinging on, but finding the courage to walk away. Finding the courage to walk away.